Today we're going to be talking about growing microgreens indoors. Right now it's winter, it's January, we have snow on the ground here, so there's not a whole lot growing outside. We do have some greens and things growing in cold frames and in our low tunnel, but there's not a whole lot out there. So when you want to have some fresh homegrown produce in the winter, microgreens are a great choice. So what are microgreens? Microgreens are basically baby plants. Like the name says, they are micro, they're small green things. And why should you grow them? Well, a lot of people are going to tell you that microgreens can actually have a lot more nutrition in a very small package than some of the full-grown plants will. So you're going to have a lot of nutrition packed into a small little package. You're going to be able to get a variety of flavors, and you can add them to a lot of different dishes. You can put them on sandwiches, you can put them on salads, you can sprinkle them in soups, or on top of pretty much anything you want. Tacos, chili, you name it. So there's a lot of different plants that you can actually grow as microgreens. My understanding is that pretty much anything you can eat the whole plant of, you can eat as a microgreen. Today I've grabbed a bunch of different things, but I've seen lists online of 100 or more plants that you can use. So here today I have some greens. I have sorrel, arugula, chard, spinach, kale, and cabbage. I also have an assortment of herbs. I have cilantro, dill, fenugreek, chervil, basil, and parsley, but you don't have to limit yourself to those. I've also got some vegetables, things like broccoli, cauliflower, onions, carrots, radishes, and beets. And this is just a smattering of the things that you can grow as microgreens. So you don't really need to buy specifically microgreen seeds, because microgreens are just the baby plants. So you can easily buy just regular seeds. You just grow them close together in a tray, and you're going to harvest them early. So what are the things that you need to grow microgreens? Obviously you need some seeds. You're also going to need a tray to hold your soil and grow your plants in. You need some seed starting mix. Here I have some organic seed starting mix. You're also going to need water, of course. And you're going to need a light source. That can be a very sunny window. In my house, I don't have any really good sunny windows, so we're going to be putting them under grow lights. So when it comes to grow lights, you don't actually need to buy a light that's marketed specifically as a grow light. You just need to be looking at the Kelvin and the lumens produced by that specific light. Luke over at MI Gardener has a great video about this. I highly recommend that you watch that if you're looking at grow lights. Again, it doesn't need to be a grow light. Any light will do as long as it has the appropriate level of lumens and Kelvin. So let's go ahead and get started planting our microgreens. My first step is going to be choosing exactly which microgreens I'm going to put in here, because I'm not going to grow all of these. So I'm definitely going to be growing some beets. This particular variety, the Chioggia, however you pronounce it, is a great beet, but my husband doesn't like them. So he has no problem with greens, just he doesn't like the bulbs of this particular variety, so we're going to grow them as microgreens. I'm also going to grow some onions because I love onions. I think I'll also do a mixture of the broccoli and cauliflower, and then I need at least a couple of greens. Last year I did try to do the sorrel, this is red veined sorrel, as a microgreen, and it just grew really slowly. It says 5 to 7 days to germinate, but after a month or two it was still itty bitty. So it grew much slower than the others. So I'm not going to use the sorrel this year. However, last year, those microgreens from the sorrel that I grew, I just planted them out in the garden. They became full-size plants, and they're wonderful. They should come back this year. So I think I will do the chard, because I don't especially love chard, but the microgreens should be great. And maybe I'll do the cabbage. And then we're also going to do cilantro. This is cilantro seed that I saved in 2019, so I'm going to use a good portion of that here. And maybe some basil. I'm choosing not to do the chervil. So when you're putting a bunch of seeds in the same tray, you're going to want to make sure that they have generally the same requirements. Chervil is one that requires light to germinate, or at least it says light aids in germination. So, because the rest of these aren't necessarily like that, I'm not going to do the chervil. Alright, so I've chosen my seeds, and I've also, on this side of my tray, put a strip of duct tape, and I'm going to write on here what is in each section of the tray. My next step will be to put in the soil and pre-moisten it. I believe that's a really important thing, because if you're watering from the top on something like this, you're going to displace a lot of your seeds. So you want your soil to already be moist, then you put your seeds in, put another little layer on top, and then we'll use a spray bottle to moisten the top to finish the watering process. And pretty much that's it. So we're going to put in our soil, we're going to moisten it, we're going to put in our seeds, put a little bit more soil on top, moisten it again, write down what's in each spot, and then we'll be done. So I'm going to start by putting my soil into my tray. Notice this is OMRI listed. That means it's a good organic resource. If you're going to be using organic growing practices, this OMRI label is a good indication that the resources you're using are clean and organic. They've been approved, basically. Okay, so there's the first bag. Let's spread this out. Right now it's very dry, very fluffy. I have a feeling I'm going to need a little bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and moisten this. Alright, then I'm going to mix it up. My hands are about to get nice and dirty. Can't be a gardener if you don't like having dirty hands. That's going to need some more water because that was very, very dry seed starting mix. It's just sitting on the bottom. I'm going to give this a minute to soak up that water. And in the meantime, I'm going to go get some more. Okay, so that took a bag and a half of my seed starting mix and a couple of jars of water. Now it's quite moist. That was very, very dry soil. So now all we need to do is add our seeds. So let's decide where we want to put them. Oh geez, I definitely chose too many things. So those two are going to be together. Alright, so that took a bag and a half of the seed starting mix and a couple of jars of water. So this is now quite moist, whereas it was very, very dry. So now we need to figure out exactly where we want our different crops. So I'll start here with cilantro, and we're going to be planting these quite close together. So say you're doing broccoli, it says to plant them rows 3 feet apart and plants 1.5 feet apart, but these are going to be right up next to each other. So we're not using the regular plant spacing. So you're just going to sprinkle a bunch, and they're not being real precise, but I put a bunch of cilantro seed. That was cilantro. Next we're going to be doing some beets. There's not a whole lot left here. So that's my beet. So this is going to be a narrower little section here. Oops, last one. So that's the last of that bag. Next I've got, instead of the cabbage, I'll do my broccoli and cauliflower here. And it looks like I've never opened this broccoli, even though it was packaged to be sold in 2018. So I'm trying to use up some older seed right now, as well as just choosing good varieties. And this is Waltham broccoli. Oh, there's not a whole lot in there. And we'll also add in some cauliflower. This is a package that I had opened before, so it's taped shut. Just gonna cut the top off of that so I can get some out. Oh, interesting. So I'll use about half of that. A little less than half. Plus then the broccoli. Let's see. So my beets went up to about here, so these are going to go right in there. And remember, we're putting them real close together because they're going to be very, very small plants. All right, next shall be arugula. Arugula is a very cold hardy vegetable. We have some of it out in the cold frames. And we had it growing unprotected for quite a while, up through at least half of December. And it was doing quite well. But then we got some hard freezes and it hit the dust. Okay. Next is onions. Love onions. Who doesn't love onions? Actually, I did have a roommate once who hated onions. I did not understand. Okay, so let's see, let's put these in here. Onions, basil will be next. And I've got a lot of varieties of basil. So this is sweet basil. I'm pretty much using this particular variety just to use it up. And we're going to finish up with our Swiss chard right here at the end. And I'm just going to use almost all of this, nothing quite all of it. Because I will plant just a few chard plants this spring. And these are pretty large seeds. Certain seeds, like I believe beets and possibly chard, are actually compound seeds, where there will be more than one plant can sprout from one seed. I'm not sure if chard is one of them, but I think they are related to beets, so it would make sense if they're. So next, I'm going to put a thin layer of our seed starting mix over the top, and then I'm going to use the spray bottle to water it all in. And we really just want to cover things lightly. It doesn't have to be a thick layer at all. Some of these seeds are quite small, and so they don't really need to be deep. Some of them are bigger than others. Put it in. You want to make sure there's some good contact between the seeds and the soil. I'll use a little bit more along the sides. Now last year was the first year I ever grew microgreens. I loved them. But I did notice that some plants grew faster than others. I didn't go through very precisely just to make sure that the germination rate was going to, or the germination time was the same on all the trees, but they should be good enough. Alrighty, should be enough for now. Okay, so once I'm done with this video, I am going to mark on on the duct tape what I plan to wear, so I have an idea of what's coming up where. The last thing I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to set this, it's just another tray, another clean new tray, set it on top. As these are germinating, they actually don't need the light. And in some of the sources that I've looked at in preparation for today, they said they actually will do a little bit better if you put a little bit of weight on top, which is this tray. As the seeds start germinating, they'll push it up. That little bit of resistance will help them be stronger plants. At least that's what I've read. This is my first time trying it this way, so we'll see what happens. Of course, once the seeds do start germinating, then this is going to come off, and these will go under the grow lights. And once they get to a certain height, we will do another video, and we'll show you what we do with them. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of what we've got growing outside. First of all, here is our double-layered Hinged Low Tunnel. If we open this up, you'll see a lot of mosh, arugula, some spinach, green onions, lettuces, and other things growing in here. Some things are looking better than others, but it has been rather cold. Over here is the first of our 3 cold frames, which is just a box with a window for a top. And as you might be able to see, there is ice on top of that lid. But inside, there's lots of green things. We have onions, cilantro, parsley, turnips, beets, and arugula growing in this one. Right next to it, here, is a sage plant that's not looking wonderful right now, but it is still alive and growing, even though it's surrounded by snow. And here, there's actually mosh that's still growing without any kind of cover at all. Oh, more mosh. In here, this particular one doesn't have as good of a window, so it's not as well insulated. You see some frozen leaves, but this is borage, which actually volunteered here all on its own. We've got some red Russian kale, lettuce, another either kale or collard greens, and more mosh. And next to that, here's another sage that is still alive even though it is surrounded by snow.